unexplained deaths, threats to families and children, and even federal officers being misused. This shows how Epstein allegedly silenced victims. Katt Williams is exposing what happened behind the scenes. Even after 3 million files were released, no arrests were made, and despite reports from years ago, no proper investigation took place.
It was 1996, and she was the very first victim to officially report Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell to the authorities. But in a pattern that would be set in the decades ahead, her complaint was ignored.
They just kept it all quiet, put it in the bottom drawer. And they were so dismissive that I just felt daunted and I stopped.
But by going to police, Maria felt the full force of Maxwell's fury. Terrified, Maria went into hiding and gave up her art career. What sort of threats has she made against you?
Originally, it started with things like, I'm going to burn your art, and then I'm going to burn your career, and then I'm going to burn you and the house you live in. And then it was, oh, be careful crossing a street. You can get shot in the back of the head. They were threats against my life. And I told the FBI this.
Hundreds of victims are mentioned in Epstein files, but no arrests were made. Victims were forced to stay silent about powerful people linked to Epstein. Ghislaine Maxwell was allegedly controlling everything behind the scenes. Emails, flight logs, and bank records suggest she recruited victims and helped silence them. Victims were followed, and their families were threatened. Some deaths were claimed to be unexplained. This allegedly continued even after her arrest. On June 28, 2022, Ghislaine Maxwell was sentenced to 20 years in prison and fined $750,000 for conspiring with Jeffrey Epstein.
Life and continue to verbally assault over the phone and just in person and anywhere that they could find them. They would follow these girls around for the rest of their life. Epstein's people continued to find her and would have tabs on her, calling her numbers to threaten her and continue to harass her for the rest of her life. She said that since the threats began, there have been 4 to 5 close calls where she was almost run off the road. Multiple cars, not just one, multiple.
Reports say bodies may be buried at Epstein's Little St. James Island and Zorro Ranch in New Mexico. These are believed to be victims allegedly linked to Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Investigators are reportedly searching Zorro Ranch for the remains of 2 girls. This follows an email from a former staff member claiming 2 bodies were buried outside the property, according to reports.
There are still many unanswered questions surrounding what went on at Jeffrey Epstein's Zorro Ranch property in New Mexico. And a group of lawmakers tasked with finding those answers say they're building the team to do it. News 13's Jessica Baron is live in the Newsplex with that story.
The Truth Commission was established during this year's legislative session to investigate Epstein's activities and ties in New Mexico. Democratic Representative Andrea Romero is one of the members of the commission and says she's confident about what they'll accomplish.
The Truth Commission is set up to bring justice to survivors, to get an official government record around what happened at the ranch.
A sprawling property in Santa Fe County, now infamous over allegations it may have been a hotbed of sex trafficking and abuse. The mystery surrounding what went on at Jeffrey Epstein's Zorro Ranch and who was involved has left the country demanding answers. That's why New Mexico lawmakers created the Truth Commission during this legislative session. Now, that group says they're currently building a team of legal experts to conduct their investigations. Representative Andrea Romero is one of the members of the Truth Commission. She says they've opened a request for proposals to hire legal experts who will comb through thousands of.
I'm heartened by the idea that having a full slate of folks working with us through this investigation, we're going to have things to report by the end of the year. The question is, if we need more time, going into the next session, can that be granted if needed?
The strongest example is Virginia Giuffre. She was one of the first women to sue Epstein and provided evidence linking him to powerful people like Prince Andrew. In 2019, before the Epstein files were released, she said she was writing a book about what she saw on Epstein's island in his private jet, the Lolita Express. She later said she was receiving threats for speaking out. Before the book could be released, she was hit by a truck but survived. Later, she died in a reported suicide. Before her death, she posted that she was not suicidal and warned people not to ignore it if anything happened to her.
Welcome back and Alive Now. I'm Austin Westfall. Breaking news coming in, some sad news to share. We're learning this from the New York Post, several other outlets reporting this as well. Virginia Giuffre, the most prominent victim of the late convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, took her own life on Thursday. This is just weeks after she made headlines for saying that she had days to live after she claimed to have been hit by a bus. A statement given to NBC News was quoted as such from the 41-year-old's family. It says, "It's with utterly broken hearts that we announce that Virginia passed away last night at her farm in Western Australia. She lost her life to suicide after being a lifelong victim of sexual abuse and sex trafficking." The New York Post says that Giuffre took legal action against billionaire financier Epstein in 2015, alleging that she was sex trafficked at age 16 after his ex-lover and convicted Madam Ghislaine Maxwell recruited her from her job as a locker room attendant at President Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort. The mom of 3, according to the Post, also alleged that she was forced to have sex with disgraced Prince Andrew 3 times when she was 17, including at Epstein's Little St. James Island in New Mexico, and Little St. James Island in New Mexico, and in Maxwell's London home, where a notorious photo of her with King Charles' eldest brother was taken. The Post says the allegations became the biggest scandal to rock the royal family in a generation. Again, hearing of the sad news just within the past hour, Virginia Giuffre, the most prominent victim of late convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, taking her own life on Thursday. It was announced on Friday, her death. She was 41 years old, her family confirming this.
Then she comes out publicly and says, "It was intended to be a private message. My excuse, thank
Again?
you." No, just on that, I have 5 days to live. And then a month later, or 3 weeks later, she's dead by suicide. Nothing about this story makes any sense whatsoever, any more than I'm expected to believe that Epstein killed himself. She also previously had tweeted, "If ever I'm not suicidal," although I think whenever someone takes to social media to say that, unironically, there's something going on. She posted a while back. We were on the cusp of Epstein documents being released, seeing clients on that list. Virginia Giuffre is the most credible of the last of the living witnesses, the last public of the witnesses. And instead of the release of the documents, we have the death of the most prominent living testament to the horrors of the Epstein, Ghislaine, Prince Andrew, allegedly human trafficking ring. So none of it makes any sense. I don't believe that she took her own life. People are going to say whether or not she's even dead. If she wants to disappear from the face of the earth, this is how you do it, because maybe she just wants to not deal with this anymore. But I won't believe ever that she deliberately took her life.
Katt Williams mentioned Chris Tucker as one of the names. In a Department of Justice release, photos reportedly showed Chris Tucker and Bill Clinton on Jeffrey Epstein's private jet. ET is also alleged that on September 2nd, 2002, Chris Tucker traveled to Africa with Epstein, Bill Clinton, and Kevin Spacey on what was called a humanitarian trip. Epstein was accused of recruiting a victim during this trip, who later allegedly gave Chris Tucker's name to authorities.
To a newly filed court document, Ghislaine Maxwell, the former associate of Jeffrey Epstein, she was convicted of trafficking minors, sentenced to 20 years in prison. She claims that 25 men, maybe friends, associates of the deceased financier, have been protected under secret settlements, secret deals, and that this information was not revealed to her during her trial. This is on top of what she claims are 4 other individuals, alleged co-conspirators, who were never charged. Obviously, I have thoughts. Is she telling the truth, particularly given her past, in light of what she's trying to do now? If this is true, number one, wow. And who are these people? What is a secret settlement? Can we ever find out? Can the public ever find out?
Another name mentioned is Harvey Weinstein. It is alleged that he worked with Epstein and helped recruit victims. Katt Williams has referred to Weinstein multiple times, suggesting he was not at the top, but reporting to someone higher. He has also implied that this person could have been Epstein. Clip 7. This shows how victims were allegedly forced to stay silent in Hollywood. When Katt Williams refused to follow powerful industry figures, he was blacklisted and threatened. Even after that, he claims they went as far as targeting his children.
The Chris Tucker that we got now is Epstein Island Chris Tucker, not Smokey.
Oh, Lord.
Whew. If I didn't know no better, I'd tell you he's the greatest. I don't care what you say. To be confident and not delusional is a real skill. Most of these confident people we see is really delusional.
Katt Williams has spoken out against Hollywood for years. He says actors who don't obey powerful people get blacklisted or cut off. According to him, the industry removes people it cannot control. He also claims that some high-paid performers die suddenly, which he believes is a way to avoid contracts. He suggests that unexpected deaths are a sign of people being silenced.
The supplier, Epstein, Weinstein, like these guys knew what these extremists liked and provided it, and provided the way for you to to have $1 billion and not create a fantasy island type environment has not existed throughout history.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if I was going to run some global power organization, I would try to co-opt every single leader, try to suck them in, offer support, bring them out to wherever the fuck I have my big-ass meetings, fly everybody in private jets to talk about the climate crisis.
All organizations have to follow the same rules.
Yeah. That's wild.
Recruitment is an important facet of all.
We have to get some young global leaders.
Well, understand, this is the only reason that we can talk about these big Illuminati-like entities at this period of time. It's just because of time. Like, they aged out. Like, you can't get in new, so everybody got decrepit over there, and they can't exchange, really.
Some investigative journalists actually believe that Ellen was involved in silencing victims within Hollywood. Let's not forget that she was allegedly mentioned over 300 times in the Epstein files.
No, this is their 9th time coming to my house. The problem was this time they came to my office and took my kids from an office. Not from my house, from an office. So now when I can't have my kids at my office,
that's an issue.
I must be the most terrible black dude. Because here's the whole thing. You gonna charge me with child endangerment? After I adopted 7 children and had them for 14 years in this state? Really? You coming after my kids now? Because it was already a witch hunt. Now you want my babies? Yikes.
Some reports link this to mysterious deaths and the timing of Ellen's show ending. In 2022, about a month after Ghislaine Maxwell was sentenced, Ellen's show was canceled. Later that year, Stephen Twitch boss, her co-producer and close friend, and Enhechi, her former girlfriend, both died in unclear circumstances. It is also reported that Twitch left a note mentioning personal struggles and pressure linked to his time on the show.
In order for the type of ratings we need and attention to be on this thing. See, what I'm saying is, in business, nothing is coincidental, or you would be hearing who's losing money. In all of these situations, it's only the artist that's losing. Somebody makes big money. When these rappers get killed, not incidental. Somebody made $100 million and now don't have to talk to that artist or none of their crew, don't have to validate none of their contracts. Now only got to deal with the mama, only got to see her once a year, and it's over. And the money goes up and up and up. So they killed this $20 million guy, but they reaped $60 million in benefits.
Wow.
And they had some people from your city do it.
Wow.
I'm saying there's the good side and the bad side of these businesses.
But think about what you just think about what you just said. That's extremely thoughtful and powerful.
The worst part of a story, according to these claims, is that the threats and control are still ongoing. Ghislaine Maxwell is said to be living a relatively comfortable prison life. Reports mention she even met with senior officials, including the Deputy Attorney General and Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche. After this meeting, she was reportedly transferred to a minimum security prison camp in Bryan, Texas. Unlike a standard prison, this facility has dorm-style housing, low security fencing, and fewer staff compared to her previous location.
Epstein files reveal Ellen DeGeneres as, and I'm quoting this directly from the Post's, Hollywood's most prolific cannibal, that she consumed human flesh. People are sharing distorted images of her face, writing paragraphs about underground dystopias, calling her a vampire. Now, these are completely unfounded claims with no evidence to back them up. So let's take a look at what's actually in the files. Ellen DeGeneres is named in the Epstein documents, and that part is real. Her name appears in the broader index of over 300 high-profile individuals that show up across the investigative materials. Flight logs, communications, third-party interviews, peripheral records.
There are claims of a suspicious pattern involving federal authorities not acting on victims' reports. Maria Farmer's complaint was allegedly ignored. It is also said that Epstein associate Jean-Luc Brunel offered to cooperate with authorities in exchange for immunity, but the DOJ did not accept. He later died in prison under unclear circumstances.
We're learning more tonight about the tragic side of Stephen Twitch Boss and the detailed steps he took to hide his plans. TMZ is reporting when Twitch left his home the day before his suicide, he took an Uber to a motel about a mile away. At the motel, he switched his phone to airplane mode so no one could reach him. The motel manager says he checked in under his own name and never left his room. We also now know that Twitch left his note. Details have not been made public, but TMZ reports the note alluded to challenges Twitch had faced in the past. Entertainer Tyler Perry knows firsthand what that is like.
I want to take you back to a time in my life where I tried to commit suicide a couple of times because it was so dark. I thought the only way to make this better, this pain go away, is to end my life. Had any of those attempts happened, I would have missed the best part of my life.
It is also claimed that important information is being hidden from the public. Some DOJ-released emails allegedly show Epstein discussing victims with other powerful people, but the names are not revealed. Many documents are heavily redacted, meaning large parts are blacked out, which has led to claims that key individuals are being protected.
A couple more and we're almost out of time. I do want to ask you about Ghislaine Maxwell, who was, of course, convicted in 2021 for her role in helping Jeffrey Epstein his victims. In July, you interviewed her in Florida, where she was serving a 20-year sentence in federal prison. Just a week later, Maxwell was moved to a more permissive prison camp in Texas. Why was she moved just days after you interviewed her, Mr. Blanche?
So that's a Bureau of Prison Security issue that I will not talk about.
Did you have anything to do with it? Did you have anything to do with it?
Let me finish. First of all, I am responsible for the Bureau of Prisons. So every decision that they make lands on my desk to the extent it needs to. But just let me talk about the security issue. At the time that I met Miss Maxwell, there was a tremendous amount of scrutiny and publicity towards her. And the institution she was in, she was suffering numerous threats against her life. So the BOP is not only responsible for putting people in jail and making sure they stay in jail, but also for their safety. And so she was moved. She is in federal prison. She was in federal prison before. She's in federal prison now. She's doing 20 years because she was convicted. And the fact that she was moved, she might be moved to another institution tomorrow if security requires it. And that's true of any.
There are claims that Epstein was only a small part of a larger network. A resurfaced interview with Ghislaine Maxwell is said to support the idea that Epstein was silenced to protect more powerful people linked to him. It is also claimed that over 400 influential individuals have been connected in some way to Epstein, and that many more names could have been revealed if he had been able to speak freely. Reports say millions of files exist, many of which are heavily redacted, suggesting that only part of the information has been made public.
And this is an FBI file that says one of Epstein's, it says what appears to say BFs, best friends perhaps, Jean-Luc Brunel has, quote, helped get girls. He is wanting to cooperate. And it goes on to discuss a plan for that and that he's hired a lawyer and how that would work. And so these are notes that date all the way back to a period where Brunel was believed to have considered cooperating. If you haven't heard of him, if you haven't followed this case as closely, he's one of the key officials because he held himself out as a kind of modeling scout. He did, and that's debated over whether he was actually a alleged worker, but that was one of the tools they would use. He went into businesses that had arrangements with Epstein. He was on the flights a lot. So his name was one of those that had been around before.
Epstein allegedly left a suicide note with more information about who was targeting him, but it's sealed now.